It's a Saturday morning and you're doing something you've done 180 times. You're transferring the mortgage payment, $2,200. Same account, same date, same number it's been for 15 years. Except this time, after you hit confirm, you get a notification you've never seen before. Balance, $0. Loan closed. You sit there for a second, maybe two. You were expecting something, a feeling, a signal, some internal shift that announces itself. What you get instead is silence. The coffee is still warm. The neighbor's dog is still barking. The Saturday looks exactly like last Saturday. And then, about 48 hours later, something quietly rearranges itself. Not dramatically, not all at once, but something changes at a level that's hard to name until you're standing inside it. Today we're going through exactly what that is. Not the financial mechanics, those are straightforward. The deeper thing. What actually shifts in how you work, how you think, how you make decisions, and what becomes possible that wasn't before. Because most people who pay off their house spend years working toward that moment without ever being told what comes next. My name is William, and I think about why two people can hit the same financial milestone and end up in completely different places 5 years later. Not a financial advisor. This isn't advice. This is a description. First, the number, because the number matters. The average American mortgage payment is $2,317 a month. Over a 30-year term, the total interest paid on a $300,000 loan at 7% is approximately $418,000. You borrowed $300,000, you paid back $718,000. The bank made more from your house than you paid for it. That isn't a complaint. It's a description of what the mortgage actually costs, which most people never calculate because the monthly payment is the only number they see. When that payment disappears, you don't just get $2,317 back. You get something harder to quantify. You get the weight of the obligation off your chest. And weight you've carried long enough stops feeling like weight. It just starts feeling like you. Which is why its absence is so disorienting at first and so significant later. What changes immediately and what people expect to change but doesn't? The first thing people expect is relief, and it arrives, but it arrives quietly, not dramatically, which confuses people who spend 15 years imagining a bigger feeling. Here's what actually happens in the first 30 days. Your fixed monthly obligations drop by whatever your mortgage was. If you were spending $2,200 a month on housing, your break-even number, the minimum you need to earn to cover your life, just fell by $2,200. That number is more important than most people realize. It's your floor. The lower your floor, the more choices you have. A lower floor means a bad month at work is uncomfortable instead of catastrophic. It means a slow quarter in your business doesn't threaten the house. It means the job you've been quietly tolerating for 3 years suddenly has less leverage over you than it did. What doesn't change immediately? Your income, your other expenses, your habits, your sense of financial security. Those require different work. The people who pay off the mortgage and immediately feel wealthy are often the same people who quietly inflate their lifestyle within 18 months and end up with the same amount of breathing room they had before. Different debt, same ceiling. The mortgage payoff doesn't make you wealthy. What it does is remove the single largest structural obstacle to becoming wealthy. Those are not the same thing. The math that most people miss in the first year. Let's be precise about what's available now. $2,200 a month is $26,400 a year, redirected entirely into a brokerage account at a 7% average annual return over 15 years. That single redirect produces approximately $680,000, not from earning more, not from a business, from stopping a payment and aiming the money somewhere else. That is the actual opportunity the payoff creates. Most people don't take it, not because they're irresponsible, but because the money becomes visible right as life expands to fill it. The kitchen remodel that's been on hold for 4 years, the car that's due for a replacement, the vacation that finally feels affordable, all legitimate, all expensive, all competing for the same $2,200 that just opened up. The behavioral trap here has a name. It's the same one that shows up after every raise, every bonus, every financial upgrade. Spending has a way of filling every container you give it. The mortgage disappears and a new container appears, and if you don't decide in advance what goes in it, life will decide for you. Automate the redirect before the lifestyle has a chance to expand into it. This is the single most important financial decision available in the 12 months after payoff. Most people wait too long to make it. What changes about work? This is the part nobody talks about. There's a specific kind of leverage your employer has over you when your mortgage is active. They don't need to say anything. It's structural. Your house requires a payment, the payment requires income, the income requires the job. That chain is invisible until it isn't, and most people feel it most clearly on Sunday nights, in performance reviews, in the moment before they say something honest to a manager and then don't. When the mortgage closes, that chain gets one link shorter. You're not free, you still have expenses, you still need income, but the existential weight of the obligation, the thing that made the job feel non-negotiable, is gone. And what replaces it for a lot of people is clarity. Suddenly, the question isn't, can I afford to say this? It's, do I actually want to keep doing this? That's a different question. It has different answers. Some people pay off their house and stay in the same job for 10 more years because they genuinely like it. Some people realize within 6 months that they'd been tolerating things they never had to tolerate, and they leave. Neither outcome is predictable, but both come from the same shift. The job is now a choice in a way it wasn't before. Psychologists who study autonomy consistently find that perceived choice over your work matters more to satisfaction and well-being than compensation after a baseline is met. The mortgage payoff doesn't change your job, it changes your relationship to it. For a lot of people, that's the more significant change. The risk nobody prepares you for. Here is the uncomfortable version of this conversation. A paid-off house is an extraordinarily illiquid asset. You can own a $500,000 home free and clear and have $12,000 in liquid savings. That is technically a net worth of over $500,000. It is also a situation where a $30,000 medical bill, a job loss, or a roof replacement creates a genuine crisis. The house cannot write a check. It cannot cover payroll. It cannot fund 3 months of expenses while you figure out the next move. The illiquidity trap catches people who treated the mortgage payoff as the destination rather than the transition. They get to zero on the loan, exhale, slow down the aggressive saving, and discover 2 years later that they've traded monthly cash flow pressure for a different kind of vulnerability. Asset rich, cash poor, with no obvious exit. The move after the payoff isn't to stop, it's to redirect. The same intensity, the same automation, the same discipline that cleared the mortgage pointed at liquid, diversified, income-generating assets. The house was the floor. Now you build the structure above it.
What changes about how you think about money permanently? Something shifts in your financial psychology after the payoff that's genuinely hard to describe before you experience it. Debt has a texture. It's not just a number on a statement. It's a presence, a standing obligation that sits at the back of every financial decision you make. The vacation you didn't take, the career risk you didn't consider, the business idea you filed away because the timing was wrong. For most people, the mortgage is the single largest piece of that presence. When it's gone, the thinking changes. Decisions that felt risky before start feeling calculated. Opportunities that required slack you didn't have become thinkable. The question shifts from what can I afford to do to what do I actually want to build? That's not a financial question, it's a life question. But it requires the financial ground beneath it to be stable before most people can hear it clearly. A 2023 study found that homeowners with no mortgage reported significantly higher financial confidence and life satisfaction than comparable homeowners still carrying mortgage debt, even when controlling for income and total assets. The number on the statement matters less than the absence of the obligation. People aren't responding to the balance, they're responding to the weight being gone. The version of this that goes wrong. Pay off the house, lifestyle expands to fill the payment. Kitchen, car, travel, private school tuition. 5 years later, the obligations are different, but the pressure is identical. The floor is lower, technically, but the ceiling has risen to match it. The work is still non-negotiable. The margin is still thin. The Sunday nights still feel the same. This is more common than the financial content industry will tell you, because it's not a dramatic story. Nobody makes a video about the person who paid off their mortgage and quietly inflated their lifestyle until they felt exactly as constrained as before. But it happens constantly, and it happens to people who were disciplined enough to pay off a house, which is exactly what makes it worth naming. The payoff is a hinge. It opens a door, but you still have to walk through it intentionally. The door doesn't push you anywhere. What the other side actually looks like. The people who use the payoff correctly, who redirect the payment, build the liquid assets, resist the lifestyle expansion, and make the intentional moves, describe a version of daily life that sounds almost boring from the outside. They work, they invest, they make choices that are legible as choices rather than obligations. They take the trip not because they saved for it specifically, but because the margin exists. They consider the career move not because they're desperate, but because they're curious. They sleep differently. Not dramatically differently, just better. The house didn't make them wealthy. The house was the foundation. What they built on top of it, the brokerage account, the income diversification, the reduced dependence on any single paycheck, that's the wealth. The mortgage payoff is not the finish line. It's the first morning where the finish line becomes visible.